The 3 P's of situational awareness. This is a very important skill set to have when you're trying to develop self-defense. It's very simple to understand that you need to know certain martial arts moves like punching, kicking, differing grappling moves. However, a key component to self-defense is actually the social aspect of things. That's why I have come up with this concept, which is the 3 P's of situational awareness, which are people, place, and participation. So all of these things are very important to keep in mind when you're trying to keep yourself safe and out of danger in the first place. That's the number one of self-defense. And martial arts is you don't want to get in any kind of conflict or, fight in the first place. Martial arts is like a lot of tools that we have in our society, is always a last resort. It's not something that should be used sporadically or irresponsibly. So back to this concept, people. It is very important to be aware. It's important to be, in another terminology, it's very important to be aware of who you're surrounding yourself with. What kind of neighborhoods, do you live in? Do you live in a bad area? Do you live in a good area, an okay area? I would encourage anyone out there to look up, different data statistics in your local area. Look at, for example, like voting patterns. Do you live in a conservative area or do you live in a liberal area? Or maybe it's moderate. Look at traffic statistics, weather statistics, crime statistics, all of these things. Very important to know. And just kind of see how people are around you. If people are kind of closed off, for example, I've had all kinds of neighbors because I've lived in all kinds of locations in the past couple years. Some neighborhoods have been more welcoming to me. Some have been not so much. This one, not so much. So, if you don't feel welcome, then don't try to make yourself welcomed. It's something that is, being welcome, that's something that is given to you. You can't go out and seek that. People are not very accepting of you. You, as an individual, need to accept that and move on and try to find community somewhere else. I could dive into this particular sub point even more, but that's kind of the general basis of what I'm trying to say is, make sure you're aware of the kind of people that you're around at all times. The next P is place, basically location. I would have said location, but, that doesn't fit in with the 3 Ps. Like I kind of alluded to, what is the community like? What's the culture like in your city, in your state, your general area? Do people, is it, for example, like this is kind of tied to weather, is there a lot of winter season going on there? Do people go to the mountains? Is there a lot of skiing and snowboarding and stuff like that? Maybe the weather is hotter. Maybe people go boating and fishing a lot, or maybe it's kind of moderate. Maybe you live in more of a desert terrain. People are into, hiking, biking, stuff like that. Very important to know that too. Also, like, what areas are you, associating with people the most? Where are you going the most? Are you hanging out in a dimly lit corner of a street out in an alleyway late at night? That's probably not a safe place to be for you. Stuff like that. Third P is participation, which kind of starts to get more into martial arts now. Like I just mentioned in the last couple of topics, all of these things are your surroundings. However, no matter who you are, no matter where you are in your life, you never have to let the external stimuli affect you. You know, you could be in the middle of a hurricane, which I've actually done before, and perfectly sleep well throughout it. I've done that multiple times before. It all comes down at the end of the day to you as an individual. Are you willing to participate? You know, at the end of the day, even though self-defense is legal, you don't have to strike back. You don't have to, do whatever back to the person who may wrong you. You never have to. You have that right to, but at the end of the day, it might actually not be worth it, and you might actually come out of that situation okay. If someone, for example, you're at a bar or something, some guy throws a punch at you. Well, if you don't get hit really hard and you don't get injured, I personally don't see a reason to continue the fight. And in my opinion, I just walk away, and I would leave the location immediately though. So these are just some general self-defense tips for you to think about in your martial arts journey.